Hello everyone, this is Cephalon, and welcome to my Warframe video. Today we're taking a look at the Furis Incarnon, and if you still think this is just that Mastery Rank 2 secondary you crafted early on and sold to free up a weapon slot, you're in for a surprise. Once you unlock its Incarnon form, this thing turns into an absolute monster that can melt enemies far above the level most players will ever encounter. The Incarnon transformation completely changes how the weapon behaves. Instead of firing normal pistol shots, it becomes a wide, continuous beam that feels very similar to the Athadai's alternate fire, except you've got a much larger magazine to work with. That means you can keep the beam going for a long time without constantly worrying about reloading. What really makes the Fury shine is how beam weapons interact with multi-shot and status effects. Thanks to its incredibly high status chance and the elemental balance evolution, it can stack heat procs almost instantly. Once those heat stacks start building up, enemies simply disappear. It's strong enough to delete even level cap demolists in just a few seconds with the right setup, which is honestly pretty ridiculous for what used to be just a Mastery Rank 2 secondary. For the Incarnon Evolutions, there are a few clear winners. For Evolution 2, I recommend Stormburst, which grants up to 120% additional multi-shot against enemies affected by electric status. This works incredibly well if you're using an electric primer, a companion that can reliably apply electric procs, or a Warframe ability that constantly applies electric status. In this showcase, I'm using Volt's first ability, Shock, together with its augment, Shock Trooper, so I can consistently add electric damage to my weapon and guarantee electric status procs. If you don't have a reliable way to apply electric status, I'd recommend switching Stormburst for Haven Foray instead. For Evolution 3, Extended Volley is the easy choice. An extra 25% magazine size means even more sustained beam up time, which is exactly what this weapon wants. Finally, for Evolution 4, Elemental Balance is the standout option. It pushes the base status chance all the way up to 52%, making heat stacking incredibly consistent. While Prelude of Might can look tempting, it ends up falling behind in overall damage because this build relies heavily on stacking heat damage over time, and Furis happens to be exceptionally good at doing exactly that. This is the build I've been using throughout this video. Feel free to pause and screenshot it now if you want to copy it later. With that out of the way, let's break down the reasoning behind each mod slot. We start with Galvanized Diffusion because multi-shot is simply too valuable to pass up. More projectiles means more beam hits, more status applications, and ultimately, much more damage. Next are Primed Pistol Gambit and Primed Target Cracker, giving us the critical chance and critical damage needed to maximize every tick of the beam. Lethal Torrent is another mandatory slot. It gives both fire rate and multi-shot, and on beam weapons that multi-shot is even stronger than it looks. Every additional beam instance can apply its own status effects, making multi-shot incredibly valuable for stacking heat procs and increasing your overall damage. The extra fire rate also helps ramp up those heat stacks even faster. For our elemental combination, we use Pistol Pestilence together with Frostbite. This gives us viral damage along with additional status chance. Viral increases damage dealt to enemy health by up to 4.25 times at 10 stacks. And the raw viral damage itself also performs very well against most Grineer units thanks to their health modifiers. Primed Heated Charge is one of the biggest damage increases in the build. It boosts the weapon's raw heat damage while also increasing the damage dealt by every heat status effect you apply. Then we have Pistol Elementalist, which multiplies heat status damage by another 1.9 times. If you want more general crowd clearing instead, you can swap this for Merciless Gunfight. Some people might be wondering why Galvanized Shot isn't included. At the moment, it has a few awkward interactions that make it less appealing here. It currently ignores the additional 28 base damage granted by Evolution 2, and its additive with Cascadia Flare. While I do apply an extra status effect in this showcase using Volt's Shock, giving Galvanized Shot more value, Pistol Elementalist still ends up providing better overall damage for this heat-focused build. If you happen to have an extra slot and nothing better to use, it's still a perfectly reasonable option, but it isn't my first choice. For the Exilis slot, Lethal Momentum is my preferred pick. It reduces the beam's damage falloff near the end of its range, although it doesn't actually make the beam longer. Unfortunately, the Furies can't equip Ruinous Extension, so this is about as good as it gets for improving range. If you don't care about that and you're having ammo or energy problems, Primed Pistol Ammo Mutation or Energizing Shot are both perfectly usable alternatives. For the Arcane, Cascadia Flare is easily the most comfortable option. It provides up to 480% additional damage without needing any kills to get started, making it perfect for endurance missions and boss fights where you want maximum damage immediately. If you're chasing the absolute highest damage numbers, Secondary Outburst pulls ahead, especially if you have Melee Crescendo available to maximize its bonus. It's a stronger setup overall, but it also asks for a bit more investment. For general gameplay, I also really like Secondary Fortifier. It gives you extra damage against Eximus units and Thrax Overguard while also stealing that Overguard for yourself. The extra survivability feels fantastic, especially in Steel Path missions. Overall, the Furis Incarnon is one of those weapons that completely changes your expectations. It starts life as one of the most forgettable secondaries in Warframe, then suddenly transforms into a beam weapon capable of shredding some of the toughest enemies in the entire game. The combination of massive heat stacking, excellent sustained fire, and surprisingly high scaling makes it a fantastic choice whether you're running Steel Path, endurance missions, or simply looking for a secondary that can handle just about anything. If you haven't given the Furis Incarnon a chance yet, I definitely recommend picking it up. There's something incredibly satisfying about watching entire groups of enemies evaporate under a giant laser that never seems to stop firing. Thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like if you found this video helpful, and subscribe for more Warframe guides. See you in the next one. 10-0.